everyone. Silence is directed by Martin Scorsese and stars Andrew Garfield, Adam Driver, and Liam Neeson. It takes place in the 1600s and is about two Jesuit priests played by Garfield and Driver who discover that their priest mentor, played by Liam Neeson, has gone missing in Japan while being a missionary. And at this time, people who believed in Christian values were persecuted by some of the Japanese people who lived there. Garfield and Driver then decide to venture out to try to find their priest mentor in Japan. Now, I was extremely excited to see Silence. Of course, Martin Scorsese is one of my all-time favorite directors. This man has made so many great movies, and I was expecting Silence to be another one of those films. Let's be honest, this trailer, when it came out, I was extremely excited after I saw that. The trailer was so good. The theme song playing in that trailer was so good too. Everything about this movie just looked really good, and I was so excited to see this movie. And back in 2016, I said, if I saw this movie, I thought to myself, this movie could potentially be my #1 movie of the year. Is that the case? Now, I do come from the Christian faith, and that made me even more interested to see this movie. But right away, we get right into the persecution scenes of this movie, and they are tough to watch at times. I do agree that it was a very difficult time for people that had Christian values back in Japan, and the movie captures that very well. Martin Scorsese's directing this movie was absolutely incredible. It was some of the best directing I've seen from a filmmaker all year, and of course, it is Martin Scorsese, so what else do you expect? The cinematography, too, was also great. Everything was very well shot, very nice to look at. And of course, there was a lot of meaning behind all those shots, too. But let's talk about Andrew Garfield. This guy in Hacksaw Ridge this year was great, and in this movie, he's also very good. Now, if I had to say what movie he was better in, well, I don't really know that. I can't really give you an answer for that. I think he was great in both movies. So I do think he should be nominated for one or the other. Which one that will be, I guess we'll find out. Also, I think Liam Neeson gave a great performance in this movie. Even though he's not in it that much, we do see some very strong scenes from him in this film. Adam Driver, he's not really in the movie as much as I thought, and his character isn't really that different from scene to scene. He's very monotone and subtle in all the scenes that he's in. He doesn't give, I don't think, the strongest performance, but I do think he's very good in this movie, but I would have liked to see more from him and more screen time too. And also the story from this movie was very intriguing. I was interested to see how these two priests would go into a very dangerous area of Japan to try to find their mentor. And that was something that was just extremely interesting to me, to see how these two could survive in this country and see if they would eventually find their father and somehow get out of the situation. And also, Andrew Garfield in this movie as a character, I think is one of the most well-written characters of 2016. This man, he has so much go through his mind and is put down so much in this movie. He starts disbelieving in his faith, and it is captured so well and directed so well, and his character is written so well. I love this character in this movie. You felt so much for him, and you knew where he was coming from and his motivations. Everything made sense with his character, and I loved it. And the movie does focus a majority on his character specifically because, man, this guy just goes through so much, and we see this guy melt down throughout this entire movie. He is just having a very difficult time, and that's what the movie had to capture so well. It's just this man having punch after punch go through his soul, and that's what the movie did, and that's how you felt watching this movie. It's a tough movie to watch at times, like I said, but it is just so well directed and so well written. There was also a great scene between two characters. I'm not going to spoil that for you in case a lot of you have probably not seen this movie, but there was a really great dialogue scene between these two when these two start talking to each other, and you get a lot from both of the characters in that scene, and you get a lot out of the conversation too. You understand where both are coming from, and it just makes a lot of sense. But I do have some flaws with this movie, and I think the biggest one right away would be the pacing. Now, this movie is extremely slow paced. At sometimes I was looking at my phone, just hoping for this movie to please pick up the pace, but at times it was extremely slow. I could have sworn there was at least 4 or 5 times in which I thought the movie was going to end, but then it just kept going on too. and that was a bummer. I was just hoping for this movie to end at points, and it felt very long, and I was not the biggest fan there. I felt like there were some scenes when this movie just could have ended, and it would have made sense. So yeah, you definitely could have trimmed some minutes off of this movie. It did not have to be nearly as long as it was. I feel like it could have been about 2 hours and 15 minutes to 2.5 hours, not 2 hours and 40 minutes. That was just very unnecessary to me. And also, a unique choice that Scorsese opted to go with was not having a score in this film. It was very different, and I did not expect that, but it worked because they used nature and sounds of the ocean for the score in this movie. They didn't necessarily need a soundtrack in this film, but I would have liked to see a soundtrack put in this movie. I think it would have made me care more about these characters and given more depth to me, especially when watching this movie, and make me care more and make me more upset, and just got me into the movie a little bit more and maybe made the pace a lot more faster. And I do think if this movie was a lot more fast-paced, it could have been a 100% for me, but since it was very slow-paced, I cannot give it 100%. I'm sorry. The soundtrack for me in the trailer I thought was incredible and great, and I think they could have added that into the film somewhere. I think they needed that score in this movie. That would have made it even better than it already was. But overall, I think Silence was a very good movie. Not as good as I thought it was going to be. It is very slow paced, a lot of emotional depth given to some characters like Garfield especially, and just a great story overall. Scorsese is a great director. He shows his skills in this movie to a great variety. It's just the pacing that hurt this movie the most for me. So I'm gonna give Silence an 88%. Now, I really wanted to give this movie a 100%, but I just could not. That pacing was just too slow for me. But overall, I think Silence is a very good movie. You don't even have to be of the Christian faith to enjoy this movie and to respect it. It is still very good and very watchable. But it's not a movie for all people, so I do understand if you don't like this movie. It makes sense. And there are some difficult scenes here and there, but I think if you can get through that, you will find a way to enjoy this movie. Alright guys, so I am planning on seeing The Founder tomorrow, so look for that review to come out in a few days. Also, I'm planning on seeing Gold next weekend, so I'm just going to try to get all these 2016 movies out of the way and lead on to my movies in 2017. Also, the movie Split, I do want to see that. I think you guys should let me know if you want me to review that. I'm not really sure if I want to see that or not, but please let me know in the comments if you do think I should see that movie. I guess you can kind of call me a scaredy cat. It looks like a good movie though, so we'll see. Thank you all for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.